I honestly think we should keep algebra. I
Yeah,
think it is necessary because of critical thinking. I think even though I hated it I can see how it benefited me when I went to college or even in general, like
I didn't
just
hate.
the critical thinking.
I get
So
you.
what do you think?
I didn't hate math. I didn't hate algebra. I thought, yeah, I
Yeah, like
agree with
algebra 1
that.
and 2 and I
Yeah,
think those should be like
they definitely helped with
required in
calc.
like regions and stuff.
They
Yeah,
definitely helped with calc.
exactly.
You
They
know, when I
help with
was,
everything
yeah.
for trig and
Mm-hmm.
geometry, which I also want to include. Maybe we should do less of trig in geometry. Do you really think there was a I think that's only good for people who plan on being like
Yeah.
engineers, right?
Proofs were the death of my math career. Proofs
Yeah.
were the thing that made me no longer care about math.
Yeah, logs.
Yep.
Logs for me. I just couldn't do it.
I didn't,
And
well,
I just didn't like it.
see, logs came after geometry for me, so it was like, yeah, I was too far gone at that point. But
Yeah, and
it
I
was
liked
just,
geometry. Don't get me wrong, but it was like
I
it was.
liked,
There's no point. I never used it ever,
I did
ever
really
again.
well in parts of geometry. I did really well up until we got to proofs. When we got to proofs, it was explaining how this is a triangle. It's a triangle. I didn't like, and the whole thing is like being very, very technical. It's like I can tell you what a triangle is. I can tell you why it's a triangle. I can tell you that it's because it's got these angles and it's got this and that. But I can't like, I don't know how you specifically want me to say it. And it's like that's
Right, and to be
craziness to
honest,
me.
how is that useful?
Exactly. It was
How is
craziness
that
to me.
useful?
It was like,
Unless you plan on being an engineer, which honestly I
yep.
think we should maybe push those for college for those people who want to take it.
School choice, like choices with what you're learning
Oh
about in
yeah, and
school.
I definitely think we should mention school choice in different
Absolutely.
section for sure because segment
Yeah.
because it alone I highly support it for so many reasons. I think we should replace like trig and geometry for like for high schoolers and maybe replace it with how taxes work or how to budget or how
Hmm.
to do more money management. I think that
Yeah.
would be
More commerce classes,
yeah
more, you know,
more
classes.
beneficial for the
Yeah.
individual, which I do want to briefly mention that schools are really meant to be for society rather than
Yes.
for the individual.
Yeah.
Now, how do you guys feel about that? Because I personally think it should be more on an individual highlight.
I disagree.
Yeah?
I think it should be a societal thing. I think if we're going to be paying this much money into a school system, if we're going to be able to, if we're going to be doing this school system, this public school system, then it should be geared towards getting these people fit for society.
For society. I see what you mean. I also see that like our American values are very individualistic.
Yeah, and I agree.
So
But I'm saying, I think, see, school is supposed to teach you the basic fundamentals of life. It's supposed to teach you the basic building blocks of stuff. So I think that's where we should keep it at. I think you
I
should
think
be
so too.
allowed to. I think you should be allowed to look into different building blocks, but I don't necessarily think that. I think there could be more choices, and I agree with you on that. But I do think that these kids still need to. I think we should be aiming them towards society because if not, then that's how you get craziness in society. That's how you get a society of unkempt people.
Yeah, like liberal arts degrees and stuff like that. I
Yes,
see what you mean.
exactly. So
Yeah,
if
because
you
it's like
go,
that's more fun than something with math and
yes,
whatever.
but these still English and science and they can all teach you certain things of life and certain things of society that just help. Like psychology is considered science.
Mm-hmm.
The way that people think is very important in life, I believe. That it's still one of the classes that I very much recommend. Like if when you're going to college, take at least one psychology class.
Yeah. Yeah,
Take
absolutely.
just something to help you understand the way that other people think better.
Yeah.
Because you might think that like, oh, it's just the way that people think. But no, it gets you to really be conscientious about the things that other people say, other people do. You truly can put it into another perspective when you psychologically can think of the ways that other people think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we should keep stuff like I know for I'm doing more focus on high school, so like a
Yeah.
focus on math, history, science, and English. Those are like the main four. And in a different segment, I definitely want to talk about like extracurricular activities too. That
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there should be more options
We're gonna go through
so
like,
that kids can figure out what do I like or what do I want to do with my life. You know,
Exactly.
I think we need a more focus on that because I felt like I was not as prepared or told what I need to focus on rather than what
Yeah.
do I want. You know.
see, yeah, and I think we have somewhat shied away. I think we both pretty much want the same thing, where it's like we want people to individually get the same things. We want people to get something out of individually to get something out of school. But I think like yeah, we need to teach people how to like live in society then. We need to teach people how like you can be in the society and do something with your life. How you can
See, I agree with you on that, except I don't agree with the way that they're doing it now.
No, not at all.
What am I going to need trig for in my everyday life? Algebra,
Nothing.
I could see. You know, that's fine.
Yeah, algebra.
Geometry, whatever. You know, that stuff is fine. That's to do with stuff that you're going to work with all day, every day. But when you get to stuff like
Calculus, trigonometry.
calculus and trig, that's more specialized. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I took calculus. I didn't even know why I needed to take calculus for computer
Yes, exactly.
science.
I had to take it for my psych degree.
Right.
Why?
I mean, I guess I get why I have to take it for calculus, but I guess I don't at the same time. I don't know. It's weird to explain. But, why do... And not that everyone is taking calculus in high school, but, like, I had a bunch of friends who did. I also had a bunch of friends
did
who
too,
took
yeah.
a whole bunch of higher level science courses.
Because what else was there to do?
Right.
I already was done. I was a year ahead in math, and there was nothing else to do in math, and so they said, "Oh, why don't you take calculus then?" Okay, sure.
But I mean, those were your interests throughout your lifetime. Those were things that you, as a young kid, were interested in math. So you progressed all the way until 12th grade when you were proficient at math ahead of
Yeah,
other
because I
kids.
knew I was going into college, so I definitely wanted to prepare myself for that.
Exactly. So, that's when you
I feel like
start
they should
targeting
be
certain things.
available, but I feel like it
Exactly.
shouldn't be required. I knew for sure that trig and geometry was required, and I don't really think that should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
One point that I want to bring up is that, like, there's a constant argument that there's not enough money in a school budget for this extracurricular and this extracurricular and this and that. So a part of the reasons why they teach certain classes instead of others is because they don't have the infrastructure to teach other classes. They don't have a teacher that's proficient enough in one class, in one subject to teach that class. And they might not have enough kids to recommend that much paper, that much whatever.
Yeah.
So that's another issue where we get to, but yeah, it very much should be basic building blocks of what you need in life, and that's
Right, and if they were able to change, I don't know how it is in different states, but I knew New York State made us do Common Core. I missed it, thank God. But that was a total different way of doing math, and a lot of kids failed because they were so used to learning it a certain way, and then all of a sudden in high school or middle school they had to change it up.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't we just start from kindergarten and teach that generation from then on?
Well, that's what they're trying to do with this Common Core stuff now, where it's I wonder how old those kids are at this point. We got to look into
Right.
it. How old are the kids that started off with Common Core?
So I think Common Core started like what, 5? Oh no.
My class
seven,
was the last
8 years
class
ago?
before Common Core started.
My sister was in an elementary school when
So
Common
that
Core
was
started.
2016
And I was a
when
grade ahead,
graduated,
so
2013,
Okay, so 2013. 2012, 2013.
something
Yeah.
like that. That's when I started.
Oh, so
high
it's almost
school.
10 years though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which means that kids
That's
are
when
now
I
in ninth grade,
started.
which means we're just about done with the K-12 cycle for Common Core.
Yeah.
which means
But I
that,
felt like the ones that were already in high school should not have.
yeah, no.
Yeah, no, they
It
should have
shouldn't
just
have been a-
continued with
Yeah.
what they were supposed to do.
You
and
start off in kindergarten, and then every year
when
you
they
change
are
the curriculum.
sponges, they are literally sponges.
Well, every year you add the next year's curriculum.
Right.
Yep.
Like what they did is they said to everyone that had already learned how to count, do multiplication and everything the normal way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They said, yeah, just forget, the last, 9 years or whatever it was of education that you just went through in math. You're going to start from square one.
And
and have to do it.
And have to do that level of math still.
See,
it
and I
wasn't
think-
like kindergarten level math at
Right.
ninth grade.
Exactly.
And that was I think that was the big issue with Common Core and with the switch to Common Core. It's that
They didn't
kids-
do it right.
kids are young. Kids all necessarily, they need to know the processes of how to do stuff in order to actually know how to do stuff. They're young. That's the best time for them to learn how to do that kind of stuff. So if you randomly switch that process on them, it's going to stunt their growth for the rest of their
Absolutely. And I know that the kids in my grade that weren't level higher like I was, they would have to do both the regions and the Common Core test. And they always failed the Common Core, but they had to study for both. It's just like, that's so inefficient. It's inefficient.
See, and I feel like in ways it taught certain kids to say, I'm not smart enough. I'm not this or that just because I
Absolutely.
don't think the same way. And it's like, it's bubble crap doesn't work for everybody.
It really does not.
Some people are very hardwired. Zach and I are both in very similar fields, and in ways I was always number means number. This means that, and that's always been the way that I've seen it, and it makes sense. It makes sense to me in that way. The multiplication tables, that was the way I learned, and that really helped me. Because it was this will always equal that no matter what. And
but now that they do things that prepare them for algebra, so it's
Mm-hmm.
instead of 15 plus 25, they would do minus 5 from the 20, and then add it to the other side.
This is my
It was
thing.
so
Yeah.
weird.
Is algebra really that hard that they have to be prepared that early for it?
Honestly, I don't think so.
think-
Like,
do
don't
it in
get me
better ways.
wrong.
I mean, algebra was hard. Algebra
I
2, I
scraped
cried.
That is the
through
reason
math.
why.
Scraped through math. I was terrible at math. It was the lowest thing on my grade on the report card every
Wow.
time.
Pathetic.
The lowest. And
Zach is
even
dumb.
I could do algebra. Come on now.
Oh,
Like-
wow. Yeah,
granted,
especially
it's the
the
lowest
basic
grade,
ones.
But I
Ah,
still knew what I was doing at the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basic algebra wasn't
know?
too bad.
Yeah, so I feel like algebra definitely is a keeper in high school, but honestly, I think we should replace trig and geometry with how to do your own taxes and money management, and also
You know
maybe
what?
learn about market stimulation, retirement
Economics.
plans, and
Let's-
economics.
Like,
Oh yeah, I'm
I'm-
definitely gonna mention that here
Yeah,
too.
No.
we need to teach people economics.
Absolutely,
Okay.
because the
Biden-
class that I took wasn't even required,
Yeah, neither
so
was
I
mine.
think it should be a requirement.
Biden tells people who lose their jobs to learn to code. That is something that they should be teaching in schools
Absolutely.
from a young age.
Right.
I agree.
Why? Okay, if you want people to learn to code so bad, why aren't you putting it in school?
Right. Because that's what the future is going towards right now, and that's where we go back to benefiting society. Do you think it should be required for everybody
Okay,
to do
so
coding?
yes, it's been proven that you learn code the best and you learn language the best when you are a young kid. You learn code because code is another language. It's a writing
It's
language.
like math.
I've
Yeah.
written.
It's not
Essays on
not
this
necessarily
topic.
like math. It's more of it's a way of thinking. It's the way that you speak and write.
It teaches you how to think.
Yes. It gives you're
As
giving
Steve
out
Jobs
commands
said.
to a system.
Okay.
And you have to know how to command that system. So
Mhm.
if you teach these kids at a very young age how to do that,
Yeah, I feel like if
Everybody
we
will
are
know how to
teaching
code.
them, it shouldn't start at middle school. It shouldn't start at high school. I think it should start in elementary.
yeah,
I think coding can be a really fun thing for kids, especially
Absolutely, yes.
if you have kids that are very imaginative. Let them
They
express
can
their
make
creativity
stuff.
with code.
create apps.
Right.
You can have little things like back when coding was really starting to blow up when we were really young. I remember there was this program where like you can program this robot to move around and this and that.
I got one of those for my nephew, actually.
Exactly. It's like
And
that
I
was for
honestly want to
Christmas.
try, but I know it'd be a lot harder for me to learn than
No.
somebody who's
Do it.
way younger.
go do it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Do it.
I mean,
Why?
I dropped
You'll
out
figure
of
it out.
school, but
Oh
I'm doing like the
I-
Code Academy online stuff.
Hold on,
and
I-
it's
Yeah.
simple, easy. It's.
I can also
I mean, then again,
I can
what
give you my
coding
lecture
language
slides
is.
as well.
no. Yeah,
But I
but
have
I
for
don't
it.
really have an interest in it. I tried making a video game, and I told you about that
I
night of
hate it.
coding.
It's
But
the
I
future.
tried
People
doing a
love it.
video game in my technology class. And again, this class was like brief, so it wasn't like really so much of a requirement. And it was like brief in in middle school actually, so it wasn't even in high school for me. The high school I went to, and I absolutely hated it because I just I didn't understand at all what I was typing.
Yeah, and I mean, but
It just wasn't for me.
I understand that, but it's gonna have to be. It's the future. Everybody's gonna have to know at least some sort of code. In the
Yeah,
future.
I don't think we
Yeah?
need to teach everyone like extremely
No,
advanced coding.
exactly.
Like that's what like later education is for.
Exactly.
But I think at least by the end of middle school, you need to at least be able to code a program in Python. Like I'm not saying you need to be able to do something like build
Yeah.
a system that can handle
Okay,
billions
so
of
like
dollars in
basics, like
transactions.
the basics
Exactly.
in math, history,
Yes.
science,
Right.
English.
Like the same thing we do for like math, history, science, and English, we should be doing for code and computers.
Think about it kind of like Word.
Yeah.
Think about it like
yeah, Word.
everybody had to learn how to be.
Yeah, I didn't learn
proficient.
how to do Word until college, and
Exactly.
that was definitely useful, and it's useful for
Exactly.
a lot of jobs.
It's good. Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna see code start to creep into almost every job because
So
you're
do
gonna
you
see a lot more
consider
automation.
Word coding precisely? I mean,
What?
I know you're giving them like functions and stuff, but it's not necessarily the.
Wait,
It can be. Like it depends on what you're doing. So not necessarily in Word, but in Excel.
Excel, yeah.
You can do things
Yeah.
like macros. That's technically coding within Excel. But
I wasn't
I
saying
wouldn't
that.
say like doing like the functions would be coding.
I'm
Okay.
saying think of coding, the topic of coding as like learning Word when you were a kid. That's the way that I see it in the future, where it's going to be more of like this will be useful in your life in a lot of other fields.
It,
so we're
it
just
definitely
gonna
is,
so we're
yeah.
just going to teach you how to do basic functioning of it.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I
Like,
agree with that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Where it's, I think that's where we're headed towards. And I think it just makes sense where if you're going to tell people who are 45 to learn how to code, why don't you teach kids? Why don't you
Right.
make it a topic? Because you already have computer labs in most schools. You already have this and that.
Absolutely.
Python is
Coding
free.
languages are free.
I was
They're
going to say,
all open source and free.
you can teach Python to everybody. Python
Right.
is free.
You can literally, for the younger students, like, K through 3, whatever, you can do Scratch.
Yeah.
Scratch is a program by MIT and it's based in blocks. You
Mhm.
can upload your own sprites or animations or, whatever, and you can literally do everything you do with code with these little blocks.
Now,
and
You
it's
can find
super easy
SQL.
for kids.
how
You
would
can
this
find
be
SQL as
beneficial
well.
for me? Like in
Like Scratch
any sort of coding?
coding, I mean, like you're doing all the real estate stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could use code to build your own database of available listings and their prices. And you could use an algorithm to sort them based on what you already own. Stuff that's similar, stuff that's, something that's going to be a little bit more risky, some stuff that's really low risk. You can take into
And the computer
account-
would calculate that based on the
Oh,
functions
yeah.
you give them?
See,
Oh, yeah.
and the quicker that these processes are getting, the more and more we're going to use coding. So I believe that we really will see a time when coding will be a part of your lifetime.
Just like using
part
a
of your life.
computer is
Exactly.
more of a part of our life now than it was 50 years
right.
ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
Coding is going to be a part of just, instead of me writing out this Word document, I'm going to do this and I'm going to pull up the information from this website by pulling out this instead of doing this or that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, and we might get to certain programming languages that are very, very simple, where it's, it'll automatically pull this programming language because you already said this. You know what I mean? Do you get kind of what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where it'll
A lot of it does
automate
that
coding.
now.
No, exactly.
Like there's a service yeah. It's called Replit. It's what I use to
Yep.
do like my coding stuff. And
I hate REPL.
So do you
sometimes.
think this
Oh,
should be
so
like
bad.
like
So
in
bad
the
sometimes.
thing of math, or do you think it's like of technology? It
I think
should
it
be
should be a
required.
separate course.
Yeah.
Like there should be a technology course.
Because I was gonna
Okay.
mention it in the extracurricular topic that I'll mention, but if it's that, you guys are making it seem like it is very important.
I
So
think it
maybe
is.
it should be its own
I mean,
necessary
think about it.
class.
Everything nowadays has a computer in it.
That's
Everything is
true.
coded.
And kids
Only
are
a
using
small
a
percentage
lot.
of people know how to
Okay.
actually make those things do what they want them to do and know how to work them.
Thank you for watching that clip. It was a small segment from our regular podcast, The Weekly Rundown. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and feel free to check out the full podcast, available on Spotify and YouTube. You can also subscribe and turn on our notifications if you want to be notified when we post. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.